Long flowering plants for your garden? Well, there are lots to choose from, and this is just a small selection that I wanted to talk about and give you some ideas on how to use them within your borders. Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. If you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Let's start off with the 6 that I've got here. And these are all varied plants, but they all flower for a good length of time. We'll start off with this shrub. Now, there are plenty of hydrangeas out there. They are excellent plants. This one is a paniculata type. That means they've got a head that goes up in a very soft V shape up, nearly conical, and then beautiful small outer petals and then much smaller flowers inside there. And as they start to flower, they are cream, and as they start to fade, they go this wonderful sort of rose pink, which gives them an effect of them being in flower for a really long period. Now, early Harry does not get too tall, and you can prune it. It's been grown to be for the slightly smaller garden or for growing in containers, but it is a fabulous form. It's got this lovely dark stem as well, so that contrasts well against the flower heads that you see. It has been in flower for probably a couple of months already, so it starts off quite early on. So late May it's starting to come into flower, flowering right the way through the summer months, and then it will just fade and you can give it a prune. And with the pruning of this, you would probably leave all the dead flowers there unless you really don't like it and you're someone who wants to tidy up all the time. Leave them until the spring and then go back and take off not just the flower head, but back at least one set of buds, because it flowers on that new bit of wood that it's going to grow. So just be aware that that's how to, and the more you have points of where it's going to grow from, the more flower you will get the following season. Now, hydrangeas do like quite a lot of moisture that is available. They do not have to be in absolutely soaking wet soils, but they do like available moisture there. So putting them in with a good amount of garden compost really does help. Also, the one thing that I would suggest is you can put them somewhere semi-shady. Now, that is not somewhere where it is dappled light. That is where you have got shade for part of the day, sun for part of the day. That means that they have a cool growing root system, and that helps them a lot with the moisture control. So this is a really good form. Hydrangeas are brilliant. You can extend the season, and because they will be putting on new flower and then the old flower sits there and it still looks interesting, it is of interest for quite a long period. Then let's go on to another sub-shrubby plant, and this one is Anisodontea, and this is one of my favourites. This is a mallow family, so it's got these beautiful pink flowers. It's got a lovely dark eye in the centre of there as well. And basically what happens on a flowering stem comes up, and it will have 1, 2, sometimes 3 flowers on that stem. So each one of those flowers will flower, that falls off, the next one opens that. So that extends its flowering season. This has to be the longest flowering plant that we have on the nursery. I've had it flowering with snow on it. It flowers basically 12 months of the year. It is a really great plant. Now, it's not going to stay small unless you prune it back. It is going to reach somewhere around about 6 feet, so just under 2 meters in height. It tends to be quite upright, but if it's in really well nourished soil, you will get really big leaves and it will get quite large sideways as well. It still flowers brilliantly. If you put it into porous soils, then the leaves stay slightly smaller. The flowers are always the same size, and then basically it won't get quite so large and quite exuberant, let's put it that way. But it is a fabulous thing. Now, people have a real problem with the pruning of it because it's putting on so much flower, and it's always in flower, which means it's going up and up. But you do need to check it occasionally, so therefore you do need to cut back and cut off some of the flower. Remember, removing flower and cutting back makes the plant grow. The more it grows, the more stems you have, the more flower you have. So it's sort of that same idea of all of this deadheading is that you're trying to encourage more flower to come on the plant. So if you have these in porous soils, you may find you need to give them a liquid feed, or you may need to give them a supplementary feed in the spring, and that will help them really well. So this is Anisodontea El Rayo. Now that was the ones which were sub-shrubby. Let's go on to something which is a herb. And remember, herbs are not just for putting in the pots and using for cooking. They can also be incredibly ornamental. So therefore you can mix them in with your planting and have them there, especially something as beautiful as this Origanum laevigatum. Now, if you're really interested in how to put your plants into the garden and where they should be put, then why not take a look at my new course, which is all about building your dream border. It goes through all the stages of what to look for, the pitfalls, and how to then amalgamate and put plants together. The course is on a bonus price at the moment, so it's at a reduced price, and that is going to last until the end of July. So if you want to be an early bird and get in there at the lower price, then do so. There will be a QR code on the screen for you to be able to have a look. And also please do remember that the courses that we have, you then have them for the lifetime. They do not run out. You will have those. You can dip in, have a look at something, come back out again. It will be there for you to keep on looking at. So I hope you enjoy it. So let's get back to the Origanum. This Origanum is really super. It's got wiry stems and then masses and masses of these beautiful little lilac purple flowers, and the bracts that are here, so the bud cases, stay behind and give you that lovely contrast. Small foliage, it makes a lovely clump. It's for the front of the border, sunny position, and it is adored by all of the pollinators and beneficial insects. So this is a really useful plant, and because it's got wiry stems, you get this movement. So when the breeze comes in, you'll see it moving and swaying in the breeze. It doesn't need staking, so it's an incredibly easy plant to grow in your border. Origanum laevigatum, a species form, and quite often the species are overlooked, but they are brilliant for putting into gardens. They're so resilient. And let's go to something again, which is a species, and this is a Coreopsis. This is Coreopsis major. Now, Coreopsis major has these beautiful starry yellow flowers on here, slightly paler foliage, and it goes up quite wafty again. It's one of these ones which has got wiry stems, so it doesn't need holding up. It's not something that's going to be really solid either. It's always a quite airy plant, going up probably to 2 feet 60 centimeters, and then at the base probably a foot 30 centimeters. But again, it's a species, and its flowers come up through here. Its foliage are in rings around here, and they are really lovely, bright yellow, just going on, doing its thing, and this will flower for a good period. It's a lovely bit of bright sunshine in the middle of a border. It will likes a bit of sun, slightly freer draining soil, and it will be really happy. A tough little plant, Coreopsis major. Then the last one I have here on this side of the table, oh no, it's not, I've got 2 more. Gosh, I can't count. Here we go, Veronicastrum. So as with the Coreopsis, whereby your stems go up and the leaf is held in a whirl around, that's exactly the same with the Veronicastrum, because the Veronicastrum flower can be mistaken for Veronica, but the easy way to tell when they're growing is the fact that you've got this whirl of leaves around the stems as they go up. Now, this one is showing what happens when the growing point of the flower gets knocked out, and this one has got damaged at some stage. Something's eaten it, or it's just got knocked over, and instead of it stopping flowering, it has flower buds in here at every single point where there are leaves. So this is just coming back up and flowering here in a slightly different shape. Yes, you don't get that top apical flower, but you've got lots and lots of more flowers to come through. So this one is Veronicastrum Adoration. Adoration is a good lilac blue. It's not a blue, it's a lilac blue, and it's a really good form. Now these get quite tall, they'll go quite upright and make lovely clumps at the bottom. So we're talking somewhere just under 4 feet, so somewhere around about 1.20 meters, and at the base eventually probably around about 18 inches, 45 centimeters, but really cracking plants. And I like to push them into a shadier spot. They will tolerate that, or they can go out in the middle of borders, good borders as well, but really good plants. So that is Veronicastrum Adoration. And then lastly, on this side, we have got this beautiful Lythrum. Now, all of you in America, don't suddenly go, oh my goodness me, we can't grow Lythrum. This is one of your natives. This is Lythrum alatum. This is not the purple loosestrife, the one that was introduced. So this one is one of your own. This comes from Central America. It's also known as the winged loosestrife, and I love this one because you don't actually have to cut it back for it to re-bloom. Once it starts blooming, it will keep on just putting on flowers all the time. Never masses, but always colour on the top of there, and it has very strong upright growth, and it makes a clump at the base. Now this comes from marshy ground, so it likes water available, but it doesn't have to be sitting in wet ground all the time, but it is a really good form. So this Lythrum alatum, I love it. It's upright, it holds itself out really, really well, and is just, again, another species form. So very, very adaptable in what you can use it for and how you can grow it. Let's take a look at these ones that I've got this side of the table. Let's start off with an Agastache. This is Agastache Blackadder. Now, Agastache are really good, long season, quite tall, and again, they're one of these plants whereby their flowers are on the top here, but then they get secondary flowers from here and here and here. So they get covered in these beautiful lilac blue flowers at the top of here. They are related to the sort of nettle family, so they have square stems. That means that they are strong and hold themselves up. Again, they're one of those plants whereby if a branch like this or a stem gets damaged, if you cut it to a joint, it will keep coming back and flowering again for you. So that is actually quite good. You shouldn't need to stake them. This particular form will get quite tall, so somewhere between 3 and 4 feet, so 91-20 centimeters, and it makes a lovely clump at the base. Big green foliage, so you start with a lovely foliage mound and then you get these fabulous flowers on the top which flower and flower and flower. Sometimes it smells a little bit aniseedy when you touch the foliage and that sort of thing, but it's a fabulous plant, and because it flowers for such a long period through the later season, it's really good. And they are hardy. Just remember, because of the hollow stems on the square stems, don't cut them right back down, allow them to collapse and then tidy them up. But they are a fabulous plant for the garden. So that is Agastache Blackadder. Now, not all alpines are small, as can be seen by this particular one. This is Cephalaria alpina. Now, I'm 5'4", so this is taller than me, and it will get taller. This is a beautiful plant. Now, alpine plants, most people think of alpine plants as being things for the rockery, tiny, small, little plants. But even in alpine conditions, there are tall plants, and this is one of them. It just means that they grow from higher elevations. They are used to sort of really cold weather. They're used to quite draining soils, and so therefore they're really tough. Now I really love Cephalaria alpina. I prefer it to Cephalaria gigantea because the foliage is much more dissected and there isn't as much of it, so you don't get this massive great big mound at the bottom. You get this lovely dark green foliage which just makes a smaller mound, and then you get these lovely wiry stems which go on up, and then at the moment they've just got little bobbles on here as buds. So these are little bobbles here. They are going to turn into beautiful creamy yellow scabious flowers, and they're going to be about the size of a 50p piece. So what's that? I don't know in other money. So anyway, probably about 2.5 centimetres diameter. They are great, and then the foliage gets less and less as it goes up. They're wiry, they hold themselves up, they waft in the breeze. It's just a fabulous plant. So it's up to around about 6 feet, 2 metres is maximum you'd expect the flower stems to get to. Foliage and growth at the base, probably somewhere around about 45 centimetres or 18 inches. And it's not going to make, as I say, a dense, heavy lot of leaf there. Really super plant, and it keeps on flowering, and then when the dead heads are there, they're really ornamental, so you can leave that as well. Now again, this is a species, it's a tough plant, and it is a fabulous thing to grow and to extend your season in your borders. Then, of course, there are hardy geraniums. We wouldn't be having this conversation about long flowering plants if I didn't do a hardy geranium. And so the hardy geranium that I have chosen this time is one called Thomson. Now there's another form that looks very similar to this called Anne Folkard. The reason why I have actually brought up and wanted to talk about Anne Thomson is when the foliage first starts coming up in the spring, you get this lovely, very yellow new foliage with a faint red line around the side of it, and soon it makes and goes into being green. So don't think it's ill. Yeah, this is not a nutrient deficiency. This is the nature of the plant. So it'll always come up with this yellow foliage to start off with, then it goes this lovely green. So don't worry, it's not an ill plant. So that's one thing I wanted to say about it. Now, Anne Thomson puts on these wonderful long stems, but not as far as Anne Folkard. Anne Folkard will stretch her arms and have a big broad span, a little bit like an albatross. This one isn't. This one's just slightly smaller. And what you have to remember is these arms, when they touch the ground, do not root. Everything is coming from this central bit of actual growth at the middle here. So the arms go out, they'll either go along the ground or they'll go up through things, which is great. And then you have these fabulous dark magenta flowers with this lovely dark veining in the middle. I think it is wonderful because what happens is it goes up inside a plant like this, and suddenly it's coming up through, and you think, oh, you've got a different plant there, but that's what it does. It meanders through, so you get these pops of colour coming out. So that is really, really wonderful. So geranium, Anne Thomson, long flowering season, just keeps on going right the way through. Fabulous plant, really love it. Something else that really flowers for an excellent length of time is this fabulous little daisy. And this is daisy, it's Erigeron karvinskianus, also known as the Spanish daisy, but then a lot of things are known as Spanish daisy. This is a cracking little plant. So the flowers start off either white or pink, and it is amazing. You will get this combination of actual colour of flower on here. If it's in a slightly shadier spot, they tend to be whiter. If it's in a much more sunny spot, they tend to be pinker. But they will always have the two-tone on them. And they are making all of this amount of mound, but it's all coming from a very small amount inside here. This is why you see them in places growing out of cracks in walls, growing out of cracks in paving. Now, a lot of people will be going, oh no, that just is a weed in my garden. Well, some people's weeds are really a very good plant for other places. This is one of those ones which, if you allow it to seed around, if it will seed around for you, because again, this is one that sometimes some people just cannot get it to seed around. And I know people were going, well, how does that happen? It's all to do with soil type, it's all to do with the conditions, and quite often these will not seed around in the profusion that they do in other places. But it is a fabulous plant to put in as a small plant, and it will just continue. Full sun, free draining soil, you will get away with it. Better soil and it will just make a big clump. Be careful though that if you put it into really well fed soil, it gets very green, very leggy, and that's when you get nearly all white blooms on it as well. But front of border, cracks in paving, that sort of thing, this is a fabulous little plant. I love it, it's brilliant. And even I struggle to get this to seed around brilliantly, and that's on my gravel garden. But as we all know, on my gravel garden I can't get Verbena bonariensis to seed around either. So certain places this will do better than other places. So if you are someone who's struggling with it to seed, put in plants. The plants are perennial, so you'll always have that same plant there all the time, and you may just have to continually get one or two more if you want to spread it around the place. But it is a wonderful thing. Let's go on to something which is bright and breezy for this time of the year and will flower, and especially if you deadhead, and these are the Gaillardia. This is Gaillardia Burgunder. Gaillardia Burgunder has these beautiful dark burgundy flowers which do fade a little bit as well, but I think this one tone one is really beautiful. It makes lovely leafy clumps at the bottom, and then its flowers come up like this. Now this is the dead flower head here. You can leave them there if you want to, but if you go back down the stem you will find that there are more buds waiting to come out, so you could cut it down to a leaf and then up it will come with more flowers coming through. It will flower and flower and flower. Occasionally they will flop down. If they do that, give them a haircut and the lower buds will come up and they will be absolutely fantastic. Now it wants some moderate soil. It's got a root that goes down quite a way, a little bit of food, but it is a fabulous thing for the middle to front of the border. Gaillardia Burgunder. The last one I've got is this beautiful salvia. There are so many salvias which have a long flowering season. This is one of the hardy ones. This is a nemorosa type. This one is called amethyst, and it has these lovely spires of amethyst flowers. Now this is just a young plant, so in the garden you would expect it to get to at least 2.5 feet in height, so that is 60 to 80 centimeters in height with the flower stems. But you can see it doesn't just send up one, it sends up these side ones, and then there will be more, so you get a lot of it. It makes a lovely clump at the base, somewhere around about a foot or 30 centimeters at the base, and very much an upright growing plant, so it's a really super form of salvia. You can deadhead and cut back and get more flower coming on it as well. A sunny spot somewhere in the front to the middle of the border, and this one will be a really happy plant. So that is Salvia, nemorosa, amethyst. Now let's go outside and have a look and see how we can use all of these plants in a combination in a border. So I've come outside to my raised border here, which basically from where I'm standing here is sort of semi-shade going right the way through to the far end there being in full sun. Now these are all the plants that I have spoken about before, and so these are all the ones that I've given you an explanation as to what they are and how they grow, and I have put them into a combination here so that they would grow for you in this style and give you some really interesting formations. And you can see we've got low, we've got higher, we've got ups and downs, and that's the beauty of utilizing plants like this. Now I have grouped probably 3 plants together to give you the effect of one plant. So this is 3 of the Coreopsis Coreopsis all put together, that would be the size that the Coreopsis major would get to being. Now that's a lovely, this is a slightly shadier bit. It's not going to be in shade all day long. It's got part shade, so this would be fantastic here. It would brighten up. You've got the lovely little hydrangea down there. You've got the low growing things. So here's the rambling geranium. This is Thomson, and the Erigeron sort of dotted, because that's how it would grow. It would put itself here, there and everywhere. So that's something that you can do with something like that. And then I've done 2 patches of this beautiful Veronicastrum, one in a slightly sunnier position, one in the slightly shadier. The one in the shadier will get taller than the one in the sunnier position because it's got a slightly cooler growing area. And then again, we've got Anisodontea 1 and 1. So repetition, that is something that you need to look at when you're doing these borders, and that's something that I touch on in the border course. So do take a look at the border course because it explains about this repetition. And the same with this fabulous Cephalaria. So I've said the Cephalaria is going to get up right up to this height. So I've put a couple at the back, but I've put one further forward because it doesn't get huge big foliage. So the foliage is quite low and then it comes up and you can see through. So it's one of these transparent plants which wafts around at the front. And then you've got a nice bright splash with the Gaillardia here. You're coming to this drier end here, and we've got the wonderful Origanum just splaying and doing its stuff. Another one of the Anisodonteas at this bit. So you've got this wonderful mix of stuff going through. Now, a lot of people don't like these bright colours, but if I was to take those bright colours out, this would be very much shades of lilac with perhaps a little bit of pink, and that would be very flat. So you do every now and again need to put in the odd pop of colour just to bring out and show off the other plants that are in here. And everything manages to look good and creates a fabulous looking border. You could move the Origanum and have those dotted along the front. Absolutely, that's up to you. And at the end of the day, building borders, you are the person who's got to be happy with the border. You've chosen the plant material, then you've put it together. If, you know, maybe a little bit later down the line you go, oh, I got something wrong. The beauty of herbaceous perennials is take a photograph of the border, have a look at it later on in the year and go, oh, I need to move that plant, I need to move that plant. And then you will get your borders to being what you want them to do. But as with everything, when you are gardening and when you are creating borders, you are dealing with living plant material. The living plant material does not stay the same every single year. One year it'll be huge, one year it'll be smaller. That is all to do with the seasonality. It's to do with how much rain you get in the spring. Do you get any rain in the summer? How much rain you get in the autumn? When did you get the light levels being high? You know, has it been dull all year, in which case the plants won't necessarily flower as well? Or was it a really good bright spring and therefore everything's come on together? All of those factors will make your borders look different every single year because it's a growing thing. It's always going to look slightly different year on year. You're not painting a picture with plants for it to stay static. You're painting a picture with plants, those plants to get a little bit wider, get a little bit taller, and create you this wonderful palette of beautiful plants which the insects, the birds, the wildlife, and yourself, especially yourself, can enjoy and do and really love being in your garden. So it's a happy gardening border with all of these long flowering seasonal perennials. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.